In the soft glow of a small rice village in 1963 Japan, a farmer named Kinji Kato was losing sleep. Each dawn, he found fresh trails of tiny teeth marks carving into his precious rice sacks. Mice were winning the nightly battle for his harvest. After countless sleepless nights, Kinji stumbled on a dream. What if the mice could be fooled into believing a predator was always near? He built a curious contraption the villagers would soon call the Cat-Mewing Machine. It was nothing more than a small wooden box with gears, a wind-up spring, and a little hidden speaker that played a scratchy recording of a cat's meow every few minutes. It hissed, it purred, it yelled softly in the darkness, just enough to make a mouse pause. When he first set it up in his barn, Kinji lay awake listening to the ghostly meows echo under the eaves. By morning, his rice bag seemed untouched. He beamed with pride, sure he'd outsmarted nature. News spread to neighboring farms. Dozens of rice farmers lined up at Kinji's workshop, trading grain and coins for their own sleepy cat in a box. For a few days, the barns were peaceful. Mice fled at the sound of phantom predators lurking among the shadows. But mice are clever. Within a week, they returned, sniffing around the wooden box, twitching whiskers at the fake meows, and soon ignoring them completely. They learned that this cat never moved, never pounced, never chased. It only meowed. And a meow without claws was nothing to fear. Kinji refused to accept defeat. He tinkered for months, adding gears to make the box hiss louder or to move a tiny paper tail. But the mice always learned faster than the machine could scare them. The Cat-Mewing Machine drifted quietly into the corner of the barn, gathering dust beside old sacks of rice and a wooden rake. Farmers still kept them around out of respect for Kinji's effort, but the real solution was hiring a real cat, warm, silent, watchful, and with claws sharp enough to keep the mice guessing. Today, a few rusted cat-mewing machines still survive in family barns as curious relics of a simpler time. A small, pointless invention that promised peace, made a little noise, and faded into the background, much like a gentle bedtime story drifting away in the night. Once upon a time, not so long ago, parents in the smoky cities of London and New York believed one thing deeply: fresh air would make their babies stronger. In the early 1930s, cramped apartments in growing cities had no gardens, no balconies, and no room for tiny lungs to breathe clean breeze. So, in a stroke of odd brilliance or utter pointlessness, someone invented the baby cage. The baby cage was exactly what it sounded like: a small wire cage, just big enough for a bundled infant, bolted to the outside of an apartment window like a curious metal nest. It was meant to give babies fresh air and sunshine while their parents cooked dinner or tidied the flat. Mothers loved the idea: no more dragging strollers down narrow stairs for a bit of sunlight. Instead, you just open the window, slide your baby into the metal cage, lock the door, and let the city winds cradle them to sleep. At first, the invention was met with polite fascination. Magazines praised modern mothers for embracing the new scientific way of building strong, healthy babies. Parents proudly hung their baby cages 10, sometimes 20 stories above the street. Passers-by below would pause, tilt their hats back, and squint up at the tiny shapes sleeping in wire boxes like little birds perched above the city noise. But not everyone felt so comfortable. Neighbors worried the cages would snap loose in a gust of wind. Grandparents gasped at the sight of babies dangling over traffic. Pigeons landed on the cages, pecking curiously at soft baby blankets. One nervous mother admitted she sat by the window all day anyway, too afraid the cage might fall. Newspapers printed photos of these sky cribs and asked, "What happens when the bolts rust?" Soon, city officials stepped in, calling the invention unsafe. Tenants groups banned them from new buildings. Little by little, the baby cage slipped into obscurity, left behind in black and white photographs of smiling babies behind bars, staring out at the rooftops and the restless sky. Looking back, the baby cage is a perfect example of a pointless invention. It solved one problem, giving city babies fresh air, but created a dozen new worries no parent truly wanted. Today, it lives on in odd history books and bedtime stories like this one, where strange ideas drift through our minds and settle quietly as we close our eyes. So, if you ever find yourself staring out your window at night, remember those tiny cages clinging to old city walls, and be glad your dreams have more freedom than those babies ever did. White heavy checkmark pushpin keycap 3. The rainy day cigarette umbrella in the misty lanes of post-war London. Rain was a faithful companion. Gentlemen in wool coats clutched their umbrellas tight, dodging puddles, tipping hats. But for one particular breed of Londoner, the die-hard smoker, the rain posed a stubborn problem: how to keep a cigarette lit when the drizzle wouldn't stop. Enter the curious, almost charmingly pointless rainy day cigarette umbrella. Imagine this: a tiny umbrella, no bigger than a tea saucer, perched at the end of a slim holder. The idea was to shield the burning tip of your cigarette from the stubborn British rain. With a flick of your wrist, you could spark up under the drizzliest sky, your tobacco safe and dry beneath its own miniature canopy. It looked absurd. Men standing on street corners, their lips pursed around a cigarette dangling a tiny black parasol. Newspaper ads promised the umbrella would keep your smoke dry and your spirits high. Shopkeepers sold them as quirky gifts for gentlemen who had everything. For a brief moment, these mini umbrellas popped up at rainy garden parties and drizzly football matches. But the problems arrived as quickly as the rain. A gust of wind could flip the umbrella inside out, spraying ash everywhere. The thin metal arms bent easily, so one strong drizzle could ruin the whole contraption. And the worst flaw? It simply drew attention. Passers-by stopped to stare and chuckle at the sight of grown men with toy umbrellas sticking out of their mouths. Within a year, the rainy day cigarette umbrella faded back into the smoky fog from which it came. A strange invention that solved a problem no one truly needed solved. Today, it survives only in old catalog clippings and the memories of a few stubborn London smokers who believed staying dry was worth looking silly. As you drift off tonight, imagine London's rainy streets, a line of old gentlemen under big umbrellas. And tiny ones, too, trying to keep a single spark alive under the endless drizzle. A sleepy reminder that not every idea deserves to stay lit. White heavy checkmark pushpin keycap for the Revolver Camera. History loves a dramatic invention, but sometimes drama comes from absurdity. In the late 19th century, when cameras were bulky and new, an ambitious inventor decided that photography should be as thrilling as a pistol duel. So he created the Revolver Camera, part handgun. All pointless. It looked like a shiny revolver, but instead of firing bullets, the trigger snapped a photo through a small lens in the barrel. The idea was simple. Hunters and travelers could shoot animals or distant sights without harming them. A non-violent trophy for the modern explorer. First, people were intrigued. Explorers pictured themselves stalking lions, snapping photos instead of pulling a real trigger. Victorian gentlemen imagined shooting portraits at fancy parties for a bit of mischievous fun. But reality was less exciting. The camera's tiny film plates captured blurry images at best, and pointing what looked like a loaded gun at someone's face quickly became a terrible idea. Police in London and Paris issued warnings about carrying the Revolver Camera in public. Startled pedestrians called for help when tourists brandished them in parks. Some hunters returned to real rifles when they realized their pistol snapshots were fuzzy and useless in time. The revolver camera ended up as a collector's oddity, a curious relic locked away in museum drawers, admired only by gadget lovers and sleepy historians. It never made photography safer or easier. But tonight, its pointless legacy lives on, a reminder that not every shot has to hit its mark. Sometimes, a useless invention makes the best bedtime story of all. YTV checkmark pushpin keycap 5. The Anti-Bandit Briefcase. Imagine you're a traveling banker in the 1960s. Your leather briefcase stuffed with cash. Muggers lurk in alleyways. Newspapers report daring robberies. And your company wants a clever solution. So an inventor dreamed up the Anti-Bandit Briefcase. Part suitcase, part booby trap. Fully ridiculous that IT worked like this. When a thief grabbed the briefcase, the owner could press a hidden switch. The case would burst open with a sudden pop, scattering the contents. Coins, notes, receipts, all over the sidewalk. The theory was simple. A bandit would panic at the chaos and run away empty-handed, while the owner scooped up the loot later. That IT sounded clever in boardrooms. Advertisements showed a dapper businessman foiling a crook with one dramatic push. But in real life, the Anti-Bandit Briefcase turned every robbery into an open-air treasure hunt. Coins rolled into gutters, notes fluttered down busy streets. Curious passers-by rushed in, pockets ready. Police quickly realized the device caused more confusion than protection. Thieves learned to grab the cash anyway, while innocent bystanders sometimes helped themselves. Banks quietly retired the Anti-Bandit Briefcase, its final act scattered like loose change in a breeze. Yet, in dusty corporate archives, old marketing pamphlets still promise peace of mind to traveling bankers. And somewhere in our sleepy minds tonight, that useless briefcase pops open once more. A pointless invention that made the world safer only in theory. Keycap 6. The Pedestrian Scoop. Crossing busy streets in the early 1920s could be a deadly gamble. In bustling American cities, horse-drawn carriages and new motor cars fought for space, while pedestrians weaved through chaos. To protect careless jaywalkers, an inventor designed the Pedestrian Scoop, a huge metal scoop attached to the front of a car. Whenever a driver spotted someone wandering into traffic, they'd pull a lever and the scoop would swing down like a snowplow. Instead of being run over, the pedestrian would be gently scooped up and pushed along until the car stopped. Some called it a people catcher. Early demonstrations drew crowds of curious onlookers. Local papers ran headlines like, "Miracle device will save thousands." But tests quickly showed its flaws. The scoop often startled pedestrians more than it protected them. People froze, tripped, or panicked when they saw a moving shovel barreling toward them. And if the driver forgot to retract the scoop, well, the car couldn't clear curbs, potholes, or small animals. After a few costly accidents and a fair share of laughter, the pedestrian scoop was quietly abandoned. Cars evolved better brakes, and cities built crosswalks instead. But this odd idea, a giant metal shovel to save distracted walkers, lives on in dusty archives, another sleepy piece of history that never quite worked as planned. Keycap 7. The alarm bed. Long before the buzz of smartphone alarms, people still struggled to wake up for work on gray, sleepy mornings. In Victorian England, one ambitious tinkerer dreamed up an invention so dramatic It made sure no dreamer could ignore the dawn. The alarm bed. This curious bed was part furniture, part mechanical prank. At the hour you set, a hidden clockwork mechanism would fire. Springs locked under the mattress would snap loose. In an instant, the entire bed tilted forward or backward, dumping the poor sleeper unceremoniously onto the cold floor. At first, the idea seemed clever. Early risers praised it as the ultimate wake-up tool for heavy sleepers. A few hotels even tested wake-up beds to guarantee guests never missed a train. But word spread quickly about broken noses, bruised knees, and startled guests banging their heads on nightstands. Tinkerers tried to soften the fall by adding padded floor mats or ropes to slow the tilt, but the shock was the whole point. Without the rude jolt, the invention was just an expensive squeaky bed. So people gave up on the alarm bed and stuck with gentle alarm bells instead. Today, you can find sketches of these tipping beds in odd patent files, a reminder that sometimes solving sleep problems only creates new bruises and better bedtime stories. Keycap ate the flying bicycle in the early 1900s. When dreams of flight gripped the world, inventors everywhere scrambled to conquer the skies. Some worked on sturdy planes, others on lighter-than-air balloons. But one adventurous soul believed the future of flight lay with the humble bicycle. He crafted the flying bicycle, a regular bike frame fitted with flapping canvas wings and a propeller powered by pedaling. Riders would pedal furiously, hoping to catch the wind and soar over fields and rivers. Onlookers gathered on country roads to watch brave pilots puff and sweat up hills, only to lift a few inches or tip sideways into a muddy ditch. Postcards showed brave young men wearing goggles and thick coats, wobbling skyward for a few glorious seconds before gravity won. The inventor promised the flying bicycle would replace cars, trains, and even airplanes. But in reality, it was too heavy, too wobbly, and too exhausting to ever truly fly. A handful were sold to hobbyists who pedaled around fields for laughs. Soon, the dream flapped into obscurity, joining the ranks of history's most charmingly pointless inventions, a sleepy story about big dreams and bigger gravity. Keycap 9. The fish walker pets bring comfort to lonely city dwellers. But one inventor believed fish deserved the same outdoor adventures as dogs. So in the 1960s, a small company launched the Fishwalker, a portable aquarium with straps so owners could carry their goldfish around town. The Fishwalker was a clear plastic box, sloshing gently as its owner strolled through parks and sidewalks. The inventor claimed fresh air and sunlight would make city fish happier and healthier. Early ads showed cheerful owners stopping on benches to feed their fish breadcrumbs under leafy trees. But the problems were obvious. Sloshing stressed the fish, temperature swings shocked them, and owners got tired of lugging around a dripping, awkward water box. Parks banned them after a few spills left flopping goldfish stranded on pathways. Within a year, the Fishwalker disappeared from shops, a fleeting moment when someone truly believed fish could enjoy a stroll in the sun. Now, it lives on in trivia books, a perfect bedtime tale of odd history and human imagination that was perhaps better left underwater. Keycap 10. The anti-eating mask. Long before diet apps and calorie trackers, one determined inventor took a more direct approach. Stop people from putting food in their mouths altogether. Thus was born the anti-eating mask, patented in the 1940s. It looked like a small cage strapped over the mouth and lower face. The design was simple. When locked in place, the mask prevented the wearer from sneaking any forbidden snacks. Early promoters claimed it would help with weight loss, smoking, or even chewing gum. They boasted that self-control could now be locked up, literally. In practice, Few people were eager to parade around with a wire muzzle. Eating with family, talking, or even sipping water became a clumsy mess. Public reaction was swift and unforgiving. Newspapers ran mocking cartoons of wearers trying to slurp soup through straws. Some rebellious users learned to remove it in secret or simply refused to wear it at all. The anti-eating mask vanished as quickly as it appeared, but its odd spirit lives on in modern diet fads and strange promises of easy control. Tonight, it's just another sleepy story, a reminder that some pointless inventions never really go away. They just change shape. And so, tonight we've wandered through a museum of ideas that sounded clever, but went nowhere. Pointless inventions that fluttered, rattled, or splashed across the pages of history only to be forgotten, like half-remembered dreams. May they remind you that the world is full of strange ideas, and sometimes it's okay to let them drift away, just like you're drifting off now. Sleep well, and good night.